is going on, guys? What up? It's Club Dub Podcast presented by SportsMockery.com. Drew and Kevin here, I should say. Eric off. He's a little bit sick and under the weather tonight, but we're here talking Bears, the best game Justin Fields has had in 2022. So what's going on? Leave some comments, some questions. We're going to get to all of those, and we're also going to preview the short week. Bears play in just a couple of days here against the Washington Commanders, a game that should be winnable. Last place, 1-4 Commanders, who have been struggling offensively. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about the Bears' struggles because it wasn't all pretty on Sunday. Even though they did lose the game, there were some, pretty moments, good moments in there, good highlights, but not always perfect. So, Drew, what's going on, man? It's you and me tonight carrying the show. How you feeling about that? Think we can do it?
Yeah, I think so. Get well, Eric. Man, I don't know. Like, have you ever felt better about a loss?
No, it didn't feel like a lot. It's funny because that's been the conversation dominating Chicago media this week. And it's funny how us as Bears fans, we all feel the same way about a lot of things. Obviously the disagreements are crazy online sometimes, but I was at a family party. I was celebrating my cousin and my grandmother's birthday. We did them together. And, obviously I was pissed at the drop. I threw my hat across the room. I mean, Fields was driving. He was confident. He was composed. Looks like he was at least going to give him a shot. Now, the Bears have struggled in the red zone, so it wasn't guaranteed that they were going to win that game or tie it up. But the fact that Fields was giving him a chance, I think a lot of people were like, wow, this is new, that we haven't seen this yet. A 2-minute situation, division rival on the road, just didn't, throw after throw. The couple that he made, it was just boom, 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 all on the line. He didn't panic after, he fumbled the ball. It was right back to the line and go. So I think a lot of people were happy with the loss, if that makes sense. I don't think it honestly, we should be, right? It doesn't matter. This year doesn't matter. How many times do we have to say that?
Yeah, I mean, you think back to just 3 weeks ago when the Bears beat the Texans, and I felt like most podcasts or reactions were almost like a funeral home. It's like, the Bears won, but we feel shitty about this loss. Justin Fields was terrible. Offense looked bad, this and that. And fast forward 2 weeks, and the Bears lost I would call it a heartbreaker at this point, but I mean, yeah, for the first time ever, and noted Justin Fields, I don't say skeptic, but just was very tempered about what he could be. Sunday, and I didn't watch the game live, so I didn't really see like the in-game context and the nerves that you usually do when you're watching a game. I watched it in the condensed NFL Plus version because I was out on a personal trip, but it was the first game that I've ever felt like confident and not nervous about what's going to happen when Justin Fields drops back to throw the ball. Not that, he's going to get sacked or he's going to, do this and that. Like, is he going to throw it to the right person? Is he going to throw it to the right spot? Is he going to be, is it the right decision? I felt like most of that game, you just felt confident that Fields would know what to do and make the right decision and keep the offense moving. And he did. I mean, up until the end, even the Emir Smith-Marset, fumble, obviously it was a good throw. They picked up 15 yards. We're, heading into, territory where you could at least consider the fact that they may pull off this game-tying drive. And just even after the sack that he fumbled, unfortunately, but at least he recovered and then immediately converted, that little dump off to David Montgomery for 19 yards in the first down. Just play after play where he just kept instilling that confidence that he knew what he was doing. I have never, ever felt that performance from Fields before, and it was really, really nice to see.
See, I think I felt it in the Pittsburgh game. I know a lot of maybe other people did too, but this one was different because that Pittsburgh game, it was in prime time and it was an important game. It was against a proven, opponent, a proven coach. But I think this one was different because it was done against a divisional team, a team that clearly has the upper hand this year, is clearly going to be the way the NFC is shaping up to be. The Vikings might be in the NFC Championship game this year. Just talent offensively, they have what it takes to bring them there. And Chris, you put it right. Chris, one of our guys following us on Twitter, we appreciate that. If you don't follow us, go ahead and do that right now at @ClubDub_podcast. He stopped thinking and started playing. You're right. And he said that in his press conference today and yesterday. He's been working with, they have a therapist who comes in. They talk about breathing and doing his own thing. And Eric wrote up a great article on this. There was a reason that Fields turned a corner this week, and it was because he found his own rhythm and is playing within his own rhythm. That's cliche. People are like, oh yeah, classic quarterback speak. I found out how to play but no, seriously, think about it. If your feet are moving as fast as your mind is moving when you're trying to make a play, sometimes that won't always work out. So if your mind isn't racing and you're cool and collected, which a lot of that has to do with the offensive line, which was a lot better on Sunday. The pressures were still there, and Fields took a good amount of sacks. But I think with his ability to slow things down a bit and just be like, hey, listen, like I can do this. I've done this before. It's so important because here's the biggest thing that I noticed with him when you notice he's composed. He's throwing the ball like 10 miles an hour faster. It's coming out of his hand like a dart. And that's with all quarterbacks, right? Tom Brady, Mahomes was throwing darts yesterday too. He does that every game. But with Fields, I noticed in the Green Bay game, even that nice play I'll keep pointing out, that play to Equanimous St. Brown when he had about 15 yards of space between him and the corner, that ball was just lobbed over there. It wasn't a dart. It was just a little dinky pass. That pass to Pettis in game 1 against the 49ers that ended up being like that 50-yard touchdown. Sure, he was on the other side of the field and he had to loft it over there, but it wasn't a, you like seeing those darts, that one across the field to Komet, things like that. Just the quick step up, you take the snap, you're in the shotgun, take the snap, take one step up, boom, throw it over the middle, quick 2-second play. It's that quick decision making, that intuition that he distributed on Sunday, and I think that is something that made us feel confident because that's what we see all good quarterbacks in the league do.
Yeah, 100%. There were several situations where the processing was good, even though the result may not have been good. The process,
and I want to hear this from you too. Because you always grade individual throws. So of the throws he made, what would you give like grade A throws? Do you have that written down? Because I know you like to go over individual ones.
I have a couple in my mind that I want to point out. The throws that I really like. It's not so much that he made like special throws during the game. It was making the right read and going to the right spot at the right time. I'll give you one example. Was I think it was the second to last drive or the third. I can't remember exactly which drive it was. It may have been the drive where they scored the field goal to go up ahead. But basically, the Vikings are showing blitz, and Justin Fields recognizes it. He knows immediately, let me throw my hot route to Cole Kmet, and does it right away. I think it was a slant route to Cole Kmet. And he beat the blitz. He found it. It picked up a first down, kept the chains moving. That was good recognition. There was another play. It was actually the third down drop that Dante Pettis had that everyone was kind of mad at him about. The throw was a little bit high, but you want to catch that ball. But the really good thing about that one was, I think it was the Vikings, they were showing cover 1 at the time, single high safety. And then late, kind of before the snap, they rotated to 2 high. In fact, I think they went up to Tampa 2. And so the beater there is that little comeback route that Pettis is doing between the deep safety and the cornerback here. He's supposed to hit that little hole, and he threw it right there. He knew exactly where to go, right with at the ball at the right time. That should have been caught. Should have been a first down. That was good processing on what was a interesting rotation by the safeties and before the snap. And the last one I want to point out was actually the throw that they missed the touchdown to Darnell Mooney on the first drive. That was actually a much kind of maligned play. There was a mix-up between Mooney and Fields, and I think Fields did the exact right thing. He's supposed to throw that away from Harrison Smith because Harrison Smith picks off everything, and that's exactly, and that's the exact right kind of schematically the way the Packers have done it in the past. Luke Getsy coming from the Packers, that's exactly the right play. He's supposed to lead Mooney towards the sideline away from Smith, and he's supposed to run under that and catch that touchdown. That's a perfect throw. He put it in the right spot. And unfortunately, they didn't connect. But several like that, there were 3, 4, 5 occasions where he made the right read in an interesting situation, and he did it quickly, and he put the ball in the right spot. So very encouraging performance. Like I said, there weren't any like amazing throws in this game. Like, yeah, you can call that the catch by Mooney, the one-handed catch. It was a good throw for sure, but there was nothing that blew your mind from a throw perspective, but just he looked like an NFL quarterback, a professional quarterback. He played like a professional quarterback. He read the field like a professional quarterback. And obviously he made plays with his legs. Man, that 52-yard touchdown that didn't happen, that would have been a signature moment. And I think back, like every signature performance that Fields has had has ended up in a loss where, the thunder was kind of stolen from him. I feel bad about that. But I mean, if he can stack the performances like he had in the second half on Sunday, the Bears actually have something then.
Well, think about it this way too, and this is the question that's been going around Twitter. I mean, with the drops and Pettis dropping a couple balls, Amir Smith-Marsetti getting stripped on the final play, you know, the quick finger pointing is going to happen because the Bears just don't have a lot invested in the wide receiver room. That's certainly obvious. Now, what does Ryan Poles need to do at the deadline? Those wide receiver trades, those premium position trades at, even in season, not even at the NFL, not even at the deadline. It just those in season acquisitions are so rare in the NFL. Usually we only see those in the offseason. The Bears made one last season for kick returner. What was his face?
Jakeem Grant.
Jakeem Grant, yeah, from Miami for a 6th-round pick. Some of those are going to happen, and he ended up being a pretty good acquisition. But you don't see the big moves, and the name going around is DJ Moore. They fired Matt Rule, Christian McCaffrey. The Bills are talking to him. All their premium. I would think that they're looking to sell to get draft capital. But for the Bears to come on board and look for, a guy who's under contract for the next 3 seasons, a pretty big cap hit next year, goes down the following 2 years. I'm for it because he's still young and he doesn't have a significant injury history. Those are, what do we say about Poles all the time? It's young, guys without injury history. I'm for it in that regard. But the Panthers aren't going to let him go for cheap, and I think that Poles is going – he loves his draft picks more. So I would say that this is probably not going to happen. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at realistically where the Bears are. Yes, it's a weak NFC. The Bears, in theory, are in the middle of things. I mean, unfortunately, they have 3 NFC losses at this point. Yeah. The Packers, Giants,
and 2 in the division.
Vikings, going to division. So it's tough in that sense. What you're really looking for is improvement. But yes, Sunday was a perfect example of kind of what I've said in the past, is that you can evaluate a quarterback without that someone to throw to, like everyone likes to talk about, like, oh, he doesn't have a number 1 wide receiver. That was a perfect example of how you can evaluate a quarterback's play independent of his situation and know he did great in that game. So I don't see the Bears breaking the bank for someone like DJ Moore, even though I think he'd be a very good acquisition. I kind of have him more on the Darnell Mooney range, where he's a flashes of greatness, very amazing number 2, but about number 1. I like my thoughts on Moore have dipped a little bit, but someone like that, I mean, I'd be happy, I'd take him, but I don't see the Bears being interested, mainly because it's all about next year. This year, you're kind of at that point giving up on draft picks and player control and value to the team. Where in theory, you don't know where the Bears are going to pick. Like, are they going to have a chance at those top receivers? Would you rather take the burden, so to speak, with DJ Moore? But I think it's a tough decision. I think the Bears are probably going to take their chances on N'Keal Harry coming back and maybe making an impact there, or maybe taking on a younger receiver that's on the practice squad later in the season as part of development.
Right, and I think we just there hasn't been enough Velus Jones Jr. yet. He only saw the ball 3 times on Sunday, which I get. This is hard there's only 17 games, and we want everything to happen all at once, and we want this, that, and the other. We want a 400-yard passing game from the Bears offense. We're not going to see that this year. And I think Luke Getsy he's told us that. We just need to accept it. And that goes the same for Velus Jones Jr. It's going to be easing him in. He missed the first 4 games of the year because of his hamstring injury. He's maybe not ready to be involved in the offense yet. As much as we might want to see it, they value winning more than they value developing players. It's a whole thing, and whether we want to disagree with that or not, that's how it's going to be. So that's another reason why I think why Poles is probably going to, I would like him to get on the phone and maybe do your due diligence, see what it's going to cost you. If it's a 5th-round pick, I mean, yeah, go for it. But I think DJ Moore, being under control for the next 3 years, DJ Moore and Velus Jones Jr. are the same age. They're both 25.
Yeah.
which is crazy to think about, considering DJ Moore has 3 1,000-yard seasons in the NFL. But if they really are going to sell cheap and sell low to get draft capital, I think you got to call over there and see. I'm not going any higher than a 4th-round pick for him, just because I think that Poles is knowing Poles. My realistic thinking about it, I'm not going to do that. But the reason I made that the title of this show, it's clear now more than ever that he really needs help with wide receivers. I mean, there's Dante Pettis is a practice squad wide receiver on every other team in this league. The Bears clearly have probably the weakest wide receiver room in the NFL. They need a couple guys that you can throw out there that you're going to be confident in making those plays because, to be honest, they're a couple plays away from being 4-1, and I think a lot of that has to do with the drops.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing as far as like making a referendum on that, honestly, is we want to see this continue on Thursday night and beyond. I mean, keep in mind, this was one half of football that he really played at a dare I say, elite level. But we need to see that continue. It does us no good because we saw, to your point earlier, we saw a significant flash in the second half of that Steelers game, and then it went back, not very good after that. So we need to see that consistency. We need to see him carry it over into Thursday and beyond. And if he does, then yeah, you can make the argument that, look, Fields has arrived. He's clearly being held back by his weapons and his situation. We need to invest. And I think the argument to invest is obvious anyway. I mean, this team definitely needs a talent infusion.
Yeah, they got how much invested in their wide receiver room? Like
exactly. It's not much.
$7 million amongst like 6 guys. Yeah, I mean.
Exactly. Now, but they need to see more from Fields consistently so that they can determine that, yeah, you know what, it is really about the wide receivers and the offensive line and the tight ends, et cetera. And that's kind of where we limit that kind of investment. We're happy with Fields. But yeah, Sunday was a good start.
Yeah, the play on the run obviously was phenomenal. We heard the Vikings talk about it in postgame. Eric has an article up online on sportsmockery.com. You can go read that they even admitted that they got away with one. So that should have been a touchdown from Fields, that 50-plus yard run. They admitted it. But again, that's coaching. That's very good coaching by Kevin O'Connell. You're taught to do that in those situations. You're taught to, when you're caught in a tough situation, to sell getting a flag. He did that and ended up being the game-changing play. Last thing I want to talk about with Fields before we move on to this horrific defense that just needs to get it together. I mean, it's not even a joke how bad they've been. Yeah. A lot of it looks like effort to me, and I hate saying that. But last thing I want to say on Fields before we get to the defense is that throw on the run, escaping the pocket and throwing it up to Mooney in the end zone, and Harrison Smith made a great play knocking it away. A number one receiver catches that ball.
Yeah, it was a heck of a play by Harrison Smith.
And that's not to take away from Mooney at all.
Yeah.
I just think the size thing, Harrison Smith, he always balls out against the Bears. We were saying that last week, we're saying that this week. But a number one receiver, a guy like, Diggs, Hopkins, one of those guys steals that ball away, that's a touchdown because it was a pretty damn good throw from Fields. Could have been a little bit higher maybe to avoid the throw, but it was right in the hands. Harrison Smith just made a heck of a play on it, but a number one receiver comes down with that ball. You're looking at a tie game.
Yeah, unfortunately, Fields just kind of flushed out of the pocket. I think so. Honestly, the throw was late. Fields dusted, or not Fields. Mooney dusted Smith at the line of scrimmage. Like he had him beat by, and he had like 3-4 yards.
Should have hit him in stride.
Yeah, if he had a chance to throw that on time, but I think Fields was scrambling. I don't think he had a chance to see him and really get set to make that throw. So I'm not really blaming Fields on that, but it was late at the end of the day, so Smith was able to recover and make that play. But great job by Mooney for beating Smith off the line so easily. It is unfortunate. It's a missed opportunity. Yes, a higher throw and a bigger wide receiver probably make that make that a possibility. But I also don't know if a bigger receiver necessarily beats Smith the way that Mooney did. Because Mooney's route running is certainly one of his strengths, and that's what ended up kind of keeping Smith on.
Yeah, I don't know if he beats him, but I think he makes the catch just from the pure size and hand strength standpoint. I just think that's
so. N'Keal Harry next time, we'll see.
I mean, yeah, I'm excited for N'Keal Harry. I think a lot of people, he kind of got a bad rap in New England just from dealing with younger quarterbacks, and one of the seasons he was there, he was dealing with Cam freaking Newton, man. So let's, I think N'Keal Harry, don't expect the world from him. I know. You said this too about Equanimeous St. Brown. You expected him to be. I think a lot of Bears fans are like, okay, yeah, we like this guy. He'll be okay. But same thing. We're seeing exactly the receivers. He's not great. So I don't think N'Keal Harry is going to come in here and set the world on fire. But he can easily be the number 2 on this team. I think easy. I think he can get there. Just we haven't seen Byron Pringle. He's been hurt. He's on IR now. And, EQ has kind of been a ghost. So I think that it's his for the taking, and the Bears could desperately use big body receiver with a little bit of speed. So
yeah, they need someone to step up. They just need somebody to step up and kind of like take ownership of the role. And I get that they're not as talented as, but Terry's a first round pick, probably, more by reputation. He probably was more of a second round prospect, but I mean, he should, in theory, go out there and make plays that have not otherwise been made. You hope.
Well, let's get to the defense. We talked about the good. The good was Fields, bad as the defense again. Just worst run defensive front that I've ever seen as a fan and as covering the team and looking at the team. I mean, they are getting manhandled every game. Granted, the last 2 weeks has been against two of the premier backs in the NFL with Saquon and Dalvin, but it's an effort thing. And that needs to stop. It needs to change now, because this week you're going up against a guy playing in his second game who got 9 carries last week, who's coming back after he was shot while he was robbed. He's still not in he's still not in tip-top condition. Brian Robinson Jr. This is a running game that you need to stop and make Carson Wentz play quarterback. And that all ties into getting pressure. 2 sacks over the last 2 weeks. Not going to get it done. One of them was by Jaquan Brisker. The defensive line is not getting it done. There's been no pressure. I think some of that has to do with playing Al-Qadim Muhammad way too much.
Yep.
But what do you think? Because I'm going to be honest, this defensive line sucks. And it's what I talked about in the offseason. They should have traded Robert Quinn for that high pick while they had the chance. We knew there was no. He looked good in week 1. He was still getting around guys. The bend was still there, but man, we knew that he wasn't going to get 18 sacks this year. Sell high, I think, and we're seeing this in the comments now. A lot of people sell. Let's see, we got it from.
I mean, it's just so
from Kyle here. Get rid of Quinn. You can't keep. Yeah, I agree. Should have. Not now. Not worth it now. The value's too low.
It's just bad. It's just so bad, man. Like I like Robert Quinn, right? There was a play where Robert Quinn got called for offsides. He kind of, once the flag was thrown and the play was allowed to continue, he just kind of paused there, head down, like, fuck.
Yep.
And then just started like jogging, up, and taking on the left tackle.
Didn't finish the play.
Finish the play. Dude, like that, thank goodness that I think Kendall Vildor was the one who broke up that pass, or maybe it was Kyler Gordon. But obviously Kirk Cousins did what every quarterback should do in that situation, and just launched it deep. Finish the play, hit the quarterback, do something that, will at least like make up for the fact that you gave him at least a free 5 yards. That was just like one of those like, bro, what are you doing? The other point, absolutely. Al-Qadim Muhammad has done less than nothing, like negative value to the Bears.
He's got no sacks. Yeah, he's bad. He's bad.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like Travis Gibson should be playing. I understand if they're concerned about his run fits, but he made a great play against Dalvin Cook on one of the drives. I think it eventually ended up scoring a touchdown, but it was a great play against the run. He showed that he's young, he's worth playing. Al-Qadim Muhammad has not done much. Enough playing his buddy from Indianapolis.
Travis Gibson leads the team in sacks. He's got 2. Justin Jones has 2. Dominique Robinson has a sack and a half. He obviously had that great first game. I haven't seen enough Dominique Robinson in this game, in this year either. Again, it's what's the deal with? And I think maybe now we'll see a little bit more of them. A little bit of injury news on the Bears linebacking front, but why are these guys not playing? What is it, a scheme thing? Like what? Why? I don't understand.
I really wish I knew. If we hear more about like, oh, this person had a bad practice, like, come on, Robinson just had a great play. I think he had some sort of like pass tip or a field goal tipped or something like that. He got pressure on something in the Vikings game where he affected a play and showed out well. Just like play the young guys that are probably going to be more impactful at this stage than some of these older dudes, Like, honestly, for example, Joe Thomas is supposed to play linebacker this weekend because Matt Adams is injured and on IR now. Joe Thomas has done nothing as well. Play Jack Sanborn. Play Sterling Weatherford. I don't know. Like, just right. Some of these veterans just don't make sense. And, yeah, part of this is me kind of just being a fan, wanting to see some of the young guys and just see what happens. But, like, Al-Qadim Muhammad, it is analytic measures, the eye test, everything just shows that he has been less than valuable. So, it's just I wish it made sense. Like Justin Jones has actually been playing well. Probably the one good player on the defensive line. He's not elite. He's not a great defensive tackle, but he's I think he's making the most of his opportunities the best he can. But other than that, like the linebackers suck. Like
they're just I mean, all of them. That's Roquan included. I know Roquan leads the team in tackles, and he's been okay in run coverage.
He's had one good game against Houston. That's it.
And again, what is with these guys in falling for the bootleg and falling for the draw play? I mean, they let Kirk Cousins, run a couple times on him. They let it's Daniel Jones, obviously those 2 touchdowns. It's back-to-back weeks now where it should have been corrected after the first half of the Giants game. It wasn't. The second half was, might have been just as bad as the first half. These are guys that should not be beating you with their feet. I know Daniel Jones is not, he's a little bit quicker than Kirk Cousins, but come on, man. Like, I guess that has to do with a lot. Their running games are so strong. I mean, both those teams. I mean, Saquon's been the best running back in the NFL this year so far. And, Dalvin Cook not far behind him. But still, I get that the Vikings offensive line is strong, but it's not the strongest. I mean, it's the only guys right now on defense that have had good years
are all in the secondary.
Yeah, but you want to say what? Eddie and Jaquan Brisker? And Brisker, he's been okay. I wouldn't say he's had a great start to the year.
Yeah.
Tyler Gordon had he's really struggled the last couple of weeks. He played okay on Sunday. I mean, Jalen Johnson was your best player in the first 2 weeks. He's probably been your best defensive player, and he hasn't even played the last 2 weeks. But thank God he's coming back this week because
he's on Terry McLaurin for sure.
Well, I'm just about to say, like, Jahan Dotson, and who did they have come out and catch 2 touchdowns last week was De'Ami Brown. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're going to have weapons, and their offensive line is beatable. This is the thing. I mean, Charles Leno might be their best offensive lineman. Throwback Bears legend Charles Leno. He's been pretty good in pass protection over the last week he was pretty decent on the left side, keeping Wentz pretty clean. But it was, some of these other guys are beatable. I mean, they got kind of a Sam Mustipher situation at center. The center's having a tough time snapping the ball. He's snapping off his rear end and fumbles and stuff. And the Bears will win this football game if the pass rush gets home. Guaranteed. If they have 3-4 sacks on this game, I think they win. I think that's the difference because Carson Wentz is terrible under pressure. One of the worst in the league under pressure. So we watched him play in Indianapolis last year. Terrible under pressure.
Yeah, I have to agree. Honestly, what scares me most in this game is Curtis Samuel against these linebackers. Like,
I kind of forgot about Curtis Samuel. Yeah,
like frightened.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see. I said Jahan Dotson. I think he's out with injury. I don't think we're going to see him this week. Yeah, so it'll be Curtis Samuel, Terry, and De'Ami Brown.
I
mean,
that's
still pretty intimidating. Thank God Jalen's going to be back, man.
If Carson Wentz sits, because apparently he's been limited and he has got some shoulder issue. If Carson Wentz sits and Washington doesn't have the brains to play Sam Howell, if they play Taylor Heineke instead, how do you feel about this game? I don't know.
Our guy Stevie Push put it best in the chat today. He feels better about playing against Wentz, and I'm with him because look at what did we just say? This Bears defense has not been able to keep a contain on the quarterback. They've not been able to have a quarterback spy effective. And I think a lot of that has to do with Roquan struggling to adapt to this new defense and Robert Quinn not being a 4-3 guy. Their linebacking core has struggled to the point where you don't know who the spy is. You don't know who, these quarterbacks are identifying the read right away. And I think those two things alone that benefits Washington by having a mobile quarterback in Taylor Heineke, who, I know Wentz has, been, if you're a fantasy player and you picked up Wentz on the waiver wire, he's been pretty good statistically this year. He's got a lot of touchdowns, a lot of yards thrown through the air. His air yards are up there. But still, the guy still wants to turn the ball over to you. I think Heineke being more athletic and more versatile in the pocket, that's going to give this Bears defense fits because they can't get home. They can't keep a quarterback in the pocket. They saw Kirk Cousins escape multiple times, where they had a play blown up and then guys are squeaking through. I mean, that's talent, as Eric always likes to say, that's talent. But I would rather, if you're asking me how I feel about it, Taylor Heineke plays, I think it gives Washington a better chance to win.
Might be
You? You tend to agree or what?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, Carson Wentz, you know what his kryptonite is. Taylor Heineke can beat what Matt Eberflus wants to do on defense. Like, this is not Heineke needing to make like perfect man coverage, throws against tight man coverage, and needing to like lead receivers. Like, no, he just needs to pick apart zone, which he can do, which he certainly can do. So, it's just one of those things where like whoever executes their offense best will win this game. I think the weather forecast is supposed to be pretty nice for Thursday night, so no elements, nothing weird to battle. So it should just be like trenches against trenches, quarterback against defense, and whoever plays the best and takes care of the football probably wins.
Love all these comments coming in here. David Diericks, historically, 4-3 defense is more zone pivotal to the secondary. You're exactly right. That's why they spent draft capital on the secondary. Also have to learn how to and when to blitz with the linebacker. Allen is still learning how to. Yeah, and that's hard. I think that there was a lot of times, towards the end of the game, where the Bears had a chance to blitz, Kirk Cousins a few times and just chose, to rush 3 and let their secondary do their thing. And I think that that's what really hurt them in the first half. Cousins going 17 of 17. You're right. That's a great comment, David. I totally agree. 4-3, quick spy, easy to pinpoint for the QB. Yeah, I think that's been a big part of their problem. Listen, I'm not saying that this is going to be an easy Bears win. I don't think they don't have easy wins this year just because of their talent discrepancy.
Yeah.
But Washington's 1-4. Their season's already on the brink because of how strong their division has been this year. It's at home. It's a short week. Brian Robinson Jr. is going to be a premier. They're going to do a lot of run stuff because of how the Bears have, just how the Bears defense has handled the run this year. Any film junkie, any NFL coach can be like, yeah, we're just going to try and run the ball a lot. So I think a guy making his second NFL start, benefits the Bears a significant amount. So if they can get home, I'm telling you, 3 to 4 sacks will help them win the turnover battle with Wentz. Again, we'll see if he plays. Even if Heineke plays, you still have to think that the Bears. I don't know what the line is. I'm going to check really quick, but you would still have to think the Bears are favorites in this one, being at home.
I think they were favored by 1 last I checked. I think Washington opened as a favorite, but then I think the Bears took over. But I think it's like Bears -1 or -2 max.
Let's see here. Bears open as 1-point underdogs against.
Wow.
Bears. Interesting. Wow. So. Again, the Bears have the quarterback, I think, in this one. I think you give them the quarterback advantage just based off of last week with the way Fields played. Normally, Fields was coming off a different week. You'd give it to Commanders, but I think Fields coming off his confidence and the way he's spoken, I would take him as the quarterback. You're going to have that as an advantage this week. Washington's going to have, pretty much everything else offensively. So, again, it's going to come down to defense, and with them getting no pressures, again, 2 sacks over the last 2 weeks, it's just not going to get it done. When your safety registers one of those sacks, that's obviously great. I think Jaquan Brisker is, he's up to the challenge. He's made some really nice plays this year. He's clearly not afraid to hit guys, but the defensive line has to start getting home and getting some pressures. I think that's how you win this football game. So I will take the Bears. I think they get back to 500. I'll say this one's going to be about, let's say 28-25. I think it'll be, 2 turnovers on both sides of the ball, and I think Brian Robinson will go for over 100 yards, but I think the Bears will also run the ball pretty effectively. So that just from a general standpoint, there's my prediction.
Yeah, if Fields carries over his performance from Sunday, then I think the Bears should win and could win handily. Honestly, I just feel like some of the execution should just get better by sheer repetition and practice, hopefully. But if Fields kind of regresses, then I think the Commanders actually eke this one out. So I'm gonna, fingers crossed, we see Fields carry over his performance. I'll say 23-20 Bears.
23-20 Bears. So you think it's more of a quarterback thing then? If whoever wins the quarterback matchup wins this game.
I think if Fields is playing like he did on Sunday, then he will kind of overcome what Washington wants to do on defense. because I think the way Fields was playing, Minnesota just didn't have any answers for what he was doing, like whether they played man or zone or blitzed or not. Like he had answers, and when you have answers as a quarterback, it's hard to stop you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm certainly looking forward to Thursday Night Football. I know a lot of people
watching. Yeah,
right, and I think a lot of people too. It's a new thing, so a lot of people, and I want to talk a little bit about, we pretty much want to wrap up the show here. We'll do a little bit quicker. Again, no Eric tonight. He's a little bit under the weather. We'll get him back next week. But again, you can read all of his stuff online at sportsmockery.com. Again, this is the Club Dub Podcast. Go ahead and give us a follow on Twitter if you would like. We're getting close to 500 followers. We'd appreciate it if you did that. But I want to talk about the actual product of Thursday Night Football on Amazon. I think people who've been watching this podcast for a year and a half know how much I love Al Michaels. I think him and Chris Collinsworth were the best duo, period. Sports. I thought that those two were the most fun to listen to every Sunday night for a few years there. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So from that standpoint, I think they're hitting it off pretty well. They're in studio with Richard Sherman and Fitzmagic. Love that. I think those two are really good. I think that they struggled a little bit, especially with, not calling out, certain injuries and certain calls in the NFL and being a little bit lax on that. But again, the NFL kind of has a stranglehold on those guys. So, if you call us out, we're going to fire you. We're just going to go get the next guy. I think I think a lot of people have been very hypercritical of Thursday night because of the teams that have been out there. But I think the overall product has been awesome. I think the graphics they mirror Sunday Night Football. They have Kirk Herbstreit has been a really fun listen with Al. He's no Chris Collinsworth, but I think that the product has been fun. And I keep hearing this too from people who are not Bears fans. Oh, I'm not watching the game on Thursday. Two crap teams, blah, 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 blah. You're going to watch the game on Sunday. And it's not because you hate just stop it. You're going to watch it. It's not going to be as bad as last week. You're watching, a quarterback coming off his best week. So I just want to say that I appreciate what Amazon has done. I think it's a good product. I've enjoyed pretty much everything about it. And if you haven't seen it yet, give it a try, man. Go ahead and watch it. I just think it's been a fluid broadcast. It's pretty easy to access. And there's no reason you shouldn't be watching on Thursday.
Yeah. The only complaint I have is sometimes on the broadcast, it's hard to feel the kind of like the atmosphere at the stadium. Like you can't really hear all the crowd noise very well. Like it's a little bit muffled. So yeah, I think the audio, I think David mentioned there right in that last comment, the audio sometimes can be a little bit off, at least when it comes to capturing the atmosphere. But Al Michaels is great. I've always loved him. I think the chemistry between him and Kirk Herbstreit is improving. I think in week one, we saw a little bit of, Al Michaels doesn't talk a whole lot. Like he would let Chris Collinsworth kind of take over, and, Herbstreit is kind of just like, I don't know what to add here. Like you would feel like sometimes a little bit of a pause in the commentary, but I think he's starting to pick that up a little bit. Always a fun experience. I mean, having football on Thursday, I'm sorry, I love it. I mean, the whole canceled. Yes, I understand player safety. Yes, I understand all that. But as a fan of the game, I love having it on Thursday. More days with football. Sorry, you're not beating that. So, I mean, of course, we're going to watch it. You and I are going to watch it because we have to cover this team, regardless of how hard they are to watch sometimes. But even football fans, they're gonna tune in. If they sat through,
there are going to be a few million viewers on Thursday.
Yeah, if they sat through the corpses of Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson duking it out to 12-9 football over the course of 3 hours, they're going to sit through this.
It'll be a better game than Thursday. That much I can guarantee than last Thursday. It will be a better football game. Put it on my tombstone. It will be a better football game. Fields alone excitement should be, putting people on, the screen and letting them watch, because that alone on Thursday or on Sunday, it was fun. That 52-yard run, you don't see that from many quarterbacks other than the guys like Lamar Jackson. So
yeah.
I think that there's a lot of parallels to that being drawn now, and that alone should boost the viewership. But I enjoy what Amazon has done. I think it's a fun view, and I think they're paying like $11 billion over the next what was it, like 10 seasons or 15
10 years?
seasons?
Yeah.
That's going to be a steal. They're going to make their ROI on that's going to be astronomical. So no, I'm looking forward to the game. I'll take the Bears. You're taking the Bears 23-13. We had David in here at 21-17. Yeah, leave your predictions if you got them.
I had 23-20.
23-20. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, any other storylines we want to get on there before we get out of here? I pretty much just wanted to talk about Fields and give people a chance to, talk about the game, because I think we feel a little bit more calm, cool, and collected now. And, there's always going to be that part of your brain, and there's mine going on right now, where it was one good game. It's regular season. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. And I think that that's okay, but I think it's also okay. Two things can be true. I think it's also okay to recognize that that's very likely the type of quarterback play we can see from Fields should he get an infrastructure around him. I really believe that. Some of those plays he's pulling out of his ass.
Winning
and that's awesome.
It was winning football. Yeah.
I think that I really do. I think that we can see that going forward. We've seen the flashes last year. This was the first one this year. Just got to stack. What would be what's your definition of a regression then from him? From where he set the bar now, it's not very high yet. It's still not like, oh God, like we're going to the playoffs. But what would bring that back to a regression line? I think that's what a lot of people want to know right now.
And this kind of goes back to what I've been saying. Is like Justin Fields said it the other day, and I think a lot of people got angry at him about it. Like, oh, I don't care about stats. I care about winning. I don't care about stats. He only put up 208 yards passing and all this other stuff. But he looked the part of an NFL quarterback. He was processing. He was making the right decisions. I mean, that isn't quantifiable, I guess, necessarily. It's hard to quantify that. You have to go based on tape, but he was doing everything I've ever wanted to see him do. And if he starts again looking like a deer in headlights, he's not processing, figuring out where to go with the hot read with the blitz. If he's not, pulling out at the right time, and if he's not hitting the open person and instead opting to take a sack, that's regression. I'm sorry. He could throw for 350 yards on Thursday, but if he's getting sacked 6 times when there were open outlets and he's fumbled twice and just that would be a regression for me. This is what I'm saying. Based on eye test, if you go back to Sunday, Kirk Cousins, 32 of 41, 296 yards, a touchdown, an interception, 4 of 4, 4 attempts for 4 yards rushing and a touchdown. The Vikings put up 29 points. They were up 21-3 at one point in the first or second quarter, early second quarter. And Kirk Cousins, by all accounts, played quite well. And Justin Fields had maybe 2/3 of that production in terms of passing yards. But
so Kirk Cousins finished with the third QBR last week. Fields was 4.
Yeah, I was saying you can make a legitimate argument though that Fields was the better quarterback on Sunday. That's the kind of thing, where the eye test is just so enticing based on what you see. So that's what I would love to see from him. The other 2 things I wanted to mention, you asked about storylines. I want to talk about Sam Mustipher. Please get that guy out of it. Just away from the offensive line. Cole Kmet
happen, man. He's gonna play center.
I know. Someone shoot me.
I'm with you. I tweeted it on Sunday. You're right. You may not be able to evaluate. You may be able to evaluate a quarterback without talent, but not entirely.
It's fair. Exactly. You saw growth. You want to see
Mustipher is bad. He's contributed to Field struggles significantly. The bad snaps, the false starts, getting blown up in the backfield. All of that plays a significant role in how Fields is going to play on the next down when you're facing 2nd and long all the time. And then that turns into 3rd and long because they call a run play. It's such a systematic thing. It is so. You're right. I agree. I wish Mustipher. Dan Bernstein says this on The Score all the time. There has to be a better center out there on a practice squad, and he's right. There has to be. There has to be someone somewhere that can play center better than that. Really, I don't know, man. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have a hard time believing it. There's got to be somebody out there that can play center better than Sam Mustipher.
Dieter Iselin on the Bears has to be better than fucking Sam Mustipher right now. And look, I'm not trying to kill Sam Mustipher. He's a good guy. He's an intelligent guy. He's meant to be the backup center. He happened to be playing. I get all that. But good Lord, man, the guy is just being tossed around like a rag doll.
He's getting beat pretty
just
bad.
Can't measure up to some of these guys. So anyway, we've beaten that to death. Two more things I wanted to mention. Cole Kmet is emerging again. Like, he is really stepped it up the last couple of weeks, and I'm excited to see kind of how he's emerged as an option. And he's been open more than what Fields has found, especially in that Giants game. There were a couple of times where he should have been found, but wasn't. So I'm excited to see, Cole Kmet, kind of step up a little bit. And the last thing is, like we talked about, like Khalil Herbert and his fit in this offense, and like how the running game doesn't really miss a beat when it comes to, Herbert in the game versus Montgomery. Man, Montgomery just brings something that I can't even like kind of quantify. The pass protection, Fields was a little bit more upright on Sunday because, Montgomery was helping out in pass protection, and folks like Herbert and Justin Ebner weren't getting lost. And then, just what he does when he, just is able to convert a first down from something that should have been stopped short, like that 19-yard pickup on that final drive before the fumble by Smith-Marset. Like, just that kind of stuff is so invaluable. Like, there's something about him, like you can say like, it's just,
he's a better, like, and people want to say that Khalil Herbert is an instant, set in to be RB1 next year. They're not going to extend Montgomery. I originally thought, going into this year that, I like what I see from Khalil Herbert a lot, but you're right. There's so many intangibles you don't get with him. And his second year in the league, you would think those intangibles would get a little bit better. They haven't yet. The run blocking is really, really, really rough. We've seen Matt Forte talk about it on Twitter. One of the best run blockers the Bears have had at that position in a long time. Talking about how he's got to change almost everything about his approach to the backfield. That alone should tell you that so much needs to change when it comes to his pass blocking. And with Montgomery, I mean, he's got a way quicker first step. His cutting ability is way better than Herbert's, and he's quick. Like, he's got a little bit more breakaway speed. So I would say, if when you talk about baseball players being 5-tool players, I would say Khalil Herbert's a three. He's a 3-leg running back. 3-tool running back. But the pass blocking is significantly bad. And he doesn't have the breakaway speed. Montgomery doesn't have breakaway speed like some of these other guys do, like Derrick Henry and all that, but he has some of it. So I think when you're comparing backs, there's a legitimate conversation that Fields is going to grow a significant amount more with Montgomery on the field. That much should be obvious because he's just a better player in just about every way. Montgomery's a 4-tool running back. Khalil Herbert's a 3-tool running back. And I think that one extra tool, you're right, it's significant. It plays a big role in this offense that's struggling because they don't have talent. So I think a guy with talent, clearly, it's going to make them better.
Well said. Yeah, that's all I had, man. It's one of the first. It's one of the, obviously, like we get hyped for Bears games, as far as like, hey, we get to watch football and all this stuff. But I'm legitimately looking forward to watching Justin Fields and the offense and everything on Thursday. Just that second half on Sunday was so it felt so sustainable. Like, hey, this is sustainable progress that doesn't look fluky, that, is not like, oh, he made like one amazing throw and let's all get excited about it, and then everything else it turns to shit, right? Like, it was all legitimately sustainable stuff. So I'm excited to see that carry over. Bring me Thursday.
And we should be excited because I think through 5 weeks now, the overarching theme of this Bears team, defense and offense included, not individual player lines, we're not talking about that right now. The overarching theme of this team has been second half redemption and second half coaching and adjustments. We didn't have that for 4 years before. So that alone,
it's big.
It's massive. This team responds in the second half. Don't believe me? Watch them respond again week 6 this week, because they've done it every week. They've responded. They've gone into halftime trailing. I don't know how many of the first few weeks, probably most of them. And they've made things happen in the second half and kept things close. And, clamp down on the things that need to be clamped down on, like Justin Jefferson and, getting up in his face a little bit more. Jalen Jones struggled, but he did his best when he got switched on to him a few times. That's been the number one storyline. And I'm, whether they win or lose this Thursday, whether they lose to a 1-4 team, whatever, Fields plays better and they have those second half coaching adjustments. I'm going to come out of there saying a lot of the same things next Monday or Tuesday, whenever we do the show. We'll do one of those Tuesdays that I'm saying right now. So I'm feeling good about it. I'm taking the Bears.
Well,
Last sports one, you got out of here? Anything else?
That's all I got.
Let's get out of here. Clubbed Up Podcast presented by sportsmockery.com. You can go ahead and give us a follow right now on Twitter where you're watching us. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and smash that like button. We'd really appreciate that. Facebook, same thing. Hit the like button. Give us a share and a follow as always. We will definitely talk to you guys online on Twitter during the game. Go ahead and give us our individual accounts a follow as well. We really look forward to talking to you guys next week. Go Bears. We'll talk to you then. Peace.